So hello everybody, Diane Craigville-Delson, owner of DKKD Staffing, and I'm known as Di in the industry, and I've been in this business for about 20 years, and hopefully I can give you a little insight as to what's going on in the hiring world and job seeking world, and I've been through it all. Think about it, for the last 20 years, I started in the Y2K, the Y2K era, I should say, and we were literally just converting to submitting resumes via computer. It was all via fax, and then .com hit, and we had to be really ready for placing a lot of people. So things have changed over the years. And my guest today that I'm going to introduce a little bit later is Kim Robb. And she's been not only a client, she was a hiring manager over at Princess Cruises for the last 14 plus years. She now finds herself on the market, and I thought she'd be perfect for this segment to give you kind of an idea, going from being a hiring manager and controlling the process to all of a sudden finding yourself on the job market and not really knowing what to do. And so I've been kind of helping her, and I'll introduce her a little bit later. My office is located in Westlake Village, California, and our primary geography is Southern California. Yet you'll see a little bit later that we staff all over the United States. I mean, we recently had a placement in New York, and I had somebody in New Mexico, but our primary focus is Southern California. What we're best known for, like I said, been doing this for 20 years. We love to build teams. What I get excited about is when a client comes to me and says, we want to build out this team. So we start from the high level IT person and kind of fill in everybody in between. And the focus is application infrastructure. And then we do project managers and QA and business analysts, as well as human resources. I've staffed recruiters, finance and accounting, and administrative folks. And for me, one of the greatest aspects is I get to know people personally too over the years. And what's kind of sad is a lot of the people that I placed, let's say 20 years ago, or maybe even 10 years ago as well, are now finding themselves on the market, and they've been at the same job forever and just really don't understand. Maybe they got the job even not through me, but don't understand what the process is like out there. So like I said, my presentation is kind of twofold. I'm going to target it towards the hiring manager, just so you understand what's like on our end, and the job seeker to see if I can possibly help, and how other agencies and recruiters can help. So this is my core team. Jenny has been with me since day one. We both got hired about 20 years ago at the same company, I think 2 weeks apart. We were both recruiters at the time, and I quickly migrated into liking doing the client facilitation, and she was my right-hand person as a recruiter. Several years later, we were recruited away to a very large firm. And the process is a little bit different in larger firms. They're all about, KPIs and pushing out the resumes and pushing the interviews and pushing clients to hire. And so Jenny went on her way back to, some other agencies. I went to some other ones to kind of try out, building their IT teams. And then back in about 2011, I saw the job market change, and it really picked up again. Like I said, I've been through it all. I've been through a couple of recessions, and I've watched the market go up and down. And I just figured time was right for me to go start my own back then. So I throw this slide in. Let's get this out of the way. Throw this slide in early so you have some of my information. If you're a job seeker, I post all my jobs on DKKD Staffing website. I have a link that when you scroll down, when you go onto the website, that I post the top jobs. And the reason why I do this, instead of having to scroll through all the jobs within the system, a lot of times agencies, when we get jobs, the clients are not very responsive. Or for whatever sake, it's not going very quickly. So I try to keep the top jobs on this link so you can see which ones are being more active or responsive. I have resources for interview tips and resume tips and things like that. And John Robertson, I saw a little note earlier that you took a look. So thank you for taking a look at some of the tips there. John is actually on the board and is a job seeker as well right now. He's a candidate and he's interviewing. And so, you know, when you're interviewing, you can use all the tips you can get. On LinkedIn, I created a group many years ago where I post updates on my jobs. And the reason why I did that is usually when you submit your resume into a company, and no fault of the recruiters or HR, but we literally get hundreds of applicants when we post a job. And you usually either don't get a response or you don't get any feedback, you don't know what the status is. So the group on LinkedIn that I created, like I said, for my jobs, I post updates on them. I'll indicate whether it's open or closed, or maybe I need something more. After somebody's interviewed and I realize I need, like the director of IT position that I have requires somebody to actually know some programming as well. But then I also post leadership jobs. And a lot of the members of my group are not necessarily job seekers, but they kind of watch what the trends trends are and what the industry is doing, who's hiring what. And I usually do higher level positions so I can try to help people get into the company. Here's some of my contact info. Hopefully everybody on this call will connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can always email me and everything else. Now, this picture here, this is my husband. No, he does not work for me, but he does volunteer for me. And we literally go out and clean up on the freeway. I own a stretch of the highway from Calabasas Grade to Lost Hills exit, going westbound, and then southbound from Lost Hills exit back over to the Calabasas Grade. If you ever see us out there, you know, let me know. If you have a chance to take a picture, even better, so I can post it. And then also if you want to volunteer, we're always looking for volunteers. There's 100% volunteer commitment. I don't pay to have my sign out there. It's a 5-year deal that we go out and pick up trash every couple of weeks. So let's talk. So now enough about me, and let's go on to what's going on in the market. So a lot of people out of jobs, millions and millions of people on the market. There's still a need for IT, especially IT security. When everything kind of came to a halt, I was placing a lot of cybersecurity analysts, and somebody mentioned earlier about recruiting the millennials, and I had a client where they had indicated they wanted a certain number of years skill sets, and we're having trouble finding the right fit. It's kind of a chemistry thing that they weren't really meshing with the environment there. And so we took a chance and presented somebody out of college, and computer hacking was part of all these groups, a high achiever. And so the next 4 hires ended up being molded after that. So then, of course, everything kind of came to a halt, and I'll get kind of into that. So now what we're seeing too is, number one, IT positions still going strong. Secondly, the HR department has a real challenge against them on how they're going to handle bringing people back in the office, and even now, what challenges are they having with people already working in the office? And then, a lot of people, they like working from home, and they, would like to continue that. So it all depends on the employer. So we did some polls, and in our industry, so American Staffing Association, and the majority of people want to go back into the office. And I think that's more, has to do with, depends on your situation, right? So if you have kids around, the dogs, there are distractions all the time. If you have the capability, if the kid is going back, the kids are going back to a school environment, and you're able to go back into the office, it looks like most of the people want to be able to go back into the office. They miss that camaraderie, having to, be face-to-face with people. And, there's just a benefit to that. Some people just don't like working from home. They're very isolated, and we don't know how their home situation is. May not be a favorable one. So I'm going to target a little bit on what I'm seeing from my clients right now. And what's interesting is that this time of the year, I usually see my clients trying to ramp up and fill their job openings because they're going to lose the budget. And so, everything kind of changed, right? So when we started hearing about COVID, not a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people took it seriously. So the ones that had, their numbers in place for, for the rest of the year, had the year kind of mapped out and good matrix, they were able to do better projections and kind of flip what they were going to do versus actually what was going on. And so what I'm hearing from a lot of the clients is, what am I going to do to keep the current really good employees that I have? Let's say they're working from home and they're doing a great job, and you see that there's no gap really. And going forward, how are you going to accommodate that? I've got clients who have already told their employees that if you prefer to work from home going forward full time, we'll work that out. A lot of companies, they furloughed their employees versus layoff, and that's in hopes that their industry will be strong and remain strong. Like I said, a lot of the hiring got put on hold around March or so, and then it kind of opened up a little bit. And what I was expecting was a lot of contract positions to backfill people who maybe couldn't come back into the office. Yet I was getting job openings and filling job openings for, CIO, full stack developer, director of IT. And none of them have even gone into the office yet. It's kind of funny. The positions that I filled, they maybe went in one day and everybody's kind of working from home and doing their job. And so we'll see how this plays out over the next few months, how that's going to change with everything. So a lot of employers are maybe not needing to fill gaps yet because they're just trying to optimize what they have. And then if they are hiring, they got to get creative. How are they going to incentivize people to come aboard? What are they going to offer? Are they COVID safe? A lot of times employees right now are reluctant to leave their current situation because of uncertainty, really not sure. Are you, as an employer, are you including diversity and inclusion? And inclusion, from what I'm understanding more from the hiring people, is that's being inclusive for somebody who maybe has issues at home where they can't go back into work because they can't get childcare, because the kids aren't in school. So there's a lot of things you got to think about when you're going to entice somebody to come work for your company. And one of the things that I always try to remind hiring managers and employers is it's not just how you want to be treated, but think about how your employees want to be treated. So when you're working with your current staff and you want to keep that current staff, are you talking to them about how they're feeling about the company and the future of it? So let's say you're not on the job market, but maybe you even thought about it. Like I said earlier, it's kind of interesting because I'm seeing a lot of high-level job openings where it's usually cyclical. And the beginning of the year is when I see the directors and CIOs and I'll show you in another slide of how many there are right now. It's amazing. And I'm kind of thinking that it might be because people are either laid off or furloughed, they've got some extra time, and now maybe they're thinking more of starting that business they never did, taking certifications, doing things like that. If you're you're currently employed and you have some favorite recruiters, make friends with them. Pick your couple that you feel will work on your behalf. Honest ones, very important. Make sure you have a good rapport with them. And then if you haven't worked with one before, look for referrals, ask people for referrals. If you're a job seeker, make sure that your LinkedIn is up to date. We as recruiters go to LinkedIn quite often looking for candidates. And if it's not up to date, we're not going to know what your current skill sets are, even because your resume is probably not on there. Let's say you're working and you're going to leave a job, or you're leaving, you're going to lose your job. Make sure you get your reference contact info. I've had situations where I think that when it came down to the last two candidates, the one that won over the other one was the fact that they had the most recent relevant references. And sometimes you have the excuse, well, they've retired, I don't have a way of connecting with them. So it kind of goes back to you as a manager. Make sure you give your person that you're releasing, as long as they deserve a good reference from you, make sure you give them your contact info. And if you're on LinkedIn, it's very important as well to post a relevant, meaningful recommendation on their LinkedIn. A lot of times we use that as a recruiter, we use that to pitch to the client along with the resume, so we can kind of share what other people have written about them. So then what I'm seeing, so here's some of my jobs. And like I said, earlier in the year, I had a lot of cybersecurity analyst positions, systems engineers, systems administrators, project managers, QA, business analysts. And so you can kind of see kind of the focus right now. The trend right now, like I said, I just filled this director of IT position. And then I've got other positions within that company as well. They have BA positions. When I get to know a client, like I said, I like to build teams. When I get to know a client well, and especially if they're in growth mode, they give me kind of an indication of where they need to head. And then when I find candidates that I feel might be a good fit within their environment, either geographically, in the environment, the location, background, industry, and it's not always industry specific. A lot of times people are concerned about being pigeonholed in an industry. And like I said, Kim Robb that I'm bringing aboard, she's going to be a prime example of successful interviews. Hopefully she'll get a hire as well, but I'll bring her up in a few minutes. So here's the group on LinkedIn again. So if you are a hiring manager, you're in a leadership role, this group can kind of give you an idea of the types of jobs that other companies in our area are hiring. I try to stay focused to Southern California in here. And then also, if you are looking for a job, I'll show you how you can reach out to me and how I can try to help. So again, back to befriending your favorite recruiter. Make sure it's somebody that you trust. It's very important. If you have a good rapport with the recruiter, sometimes they can really help you get in front of a client where if you just send your application or send your resume into a job opening, you have to understand, I showed one example one time when I was doing a presentation where in less than a 24-hour period, I had 137 applicants just for one job opening. And I had 50 job openings at the same time. So my steadfast rule at DKKD is every recruiter, all of us, have to respond to every single applicant that comes into our system. So we have to kind of filter through those and give feedback, say maybe, or yes, you look good, and then we take it to the other step. I lost my other slide. Hold on a second. So let me give you a little bit of an idea of what it's like on my end if you've never used an agency before. So usually candidates or job seekers think of an agency as a place that they just put their resume in there, talk to a recruiter, and the recruiter goes and finds you a job. That's not how we usually work. Maybe some of the temp agencies do that, but the way we typically work on the more executive level in IT is the client comes to us. They tell us the job specs, what their skill set desires are, and location, and and, you know, the pay and things like that. And we try to understand the culture as well. We post the job, we go to our network, we start asking for referrals. And so then kind of the process is we get the application, and this is why companies come to us for help, because they get overwhelmed as well internally. And so what I do is I take the application, I sign it to one of my recruiters. We go through the skill sets, the qualifications, make sure there aren't any errors on it. If there is a fit, I make sure that my recruiters reach out and start the screening. If not a fit, I make sure that they send some kind of a message. If it's a good fit, we submit to the client, and I'll show you how I submit to a client. And if the client's interested, you know, it's usually everything should go through the recruiter, unless the client says it's okay or likes to take over. Some of my clients like to take over and set the interviews. But usually it's the recruiter who sets up the interview, does the prep, does everything. And every company is different, but that's usually the typical process. My recruiters, or I do, we prep the candidates before. We try to give them as much information about the company. We tell them to go research. You know, you should always research when you go into an interview. And I always tell hiring managers, if the candidate that I presented to them didn't know what your company did or what the job entailed, then they don't listen to direction very well. And sometimes I've actually pulled candidates out of presenting them to a position because they don't listen or don't follow direction. If it's a contract position, usually the staffing agency makes an offer and you get paid by the staffing agency. And then we run background checks, which sometimes include credit and drug screens for direct hire positions. I actually prefer that the client makes the offer. And then that way it's mutually between the client, the hiring person, HR, and the person getting hired. It's not a sales game from the agency, and every agency is different. I'm just kind of explaining how I do it. In both cases, we do reference checks, and because I've been in the industry for a long time, a lot of times I will do what I call backdoor reference checks, and I will contact somebody at a company where I know they've worked before and see if I get some dirt on them, or if they're willing to give me a glowing report on the person. So this is these are some of my typical questions. So if you're a hiring manager, I'm letting you know, these are some of the questions that I ask. If you're a candidate, I'm gonna drill deep. I am a stickler about providing all these details in my write-up to the client, so they know that I've done my due diligence and have actually screened the person, not just sending a resume. I get asked by hundreds of people, can you just forward my resume? Can you just do an introduction? And I say, you know what? If you'd like that, I said, I need these details. And then I ask, you know, is there a job opening that you have interest in? And if they say yes, then I go through this process and I gather all the details so they have everything in the body of the email, and I present just as if I have a contract with the company and I'm going to get a fee. So many times I refer people for free, and it's just to keep the market moving and help people out. And many times, of course, it's landed me contracts with a company, which is great. Like I said, most of the leads that I do help people out with are the ones that are higher level. So back in my LinkedIn group, when if you see a CIO position, CTO, CISO, you know, anything management and above, I'm more apt to help the person because there's just too many people and too many jobs for me to help everybody. But that's where this one comes in a little bit different, and I'm going to introduce you to Kim. So Kim and I go back, like I said, about 14 years. She was recruiting manager over at Princess Cruises at the time. And I was referred by, we had a mutual friend, got referred into Kim. She told me what the processes were. Ironically, my husband, who's in IT also, had worked with Kim like 20 years ago. So there's a lot of mutual respect there. She's been hiring from me for, you know, when I was at other agencies, and then when, you know, I came to DKKD. So I think over the last 14 years, probably 35 plus people that we placed at Princess Cruises. And as we know, the hospitality industry took a huge hit during these times. And so Kim came to me. She says, guess what? I'm one of the thousands at Princess Cruises who was laid off. And can you help me? And because Kim has been on both sides with me, she was, like I said, in HR, helped me out, and then she moved into another division, business analyst. She's working on HRIS and has done project management and business analysis. I haven't worked with her in that capacity. Yet, you know what? I know her background, and I know that she would listen. So I gave her the criteria that I posed to all candidates. I said, if you'd like my help, go look for jobs. If I don't have something on my site that you fit, go look for some jobs that you fit. But what I require is that you're at least a 90% plus fit for the job. I cannot present somebody into a company if they don't at least hit like the top 5 requirements, because then it's a lot of waste of my time, especially since I'm referring somebody for free. And then, and back to, let's talk about industries. So Kim's, background, entertainment and hospitality, she'd really like to get into the healthcare industry. So I told her to look for jobs where she felt that her background would fit. She sent me the job, sent me all the details supporting it, and actually got her interviews by referring her through my LinkedIn contacts or whoever I had to, CIO one company, director at another one. And here's Kim, where I'm going to let you take it over and talk a little bit about the process of working with me over the years, and then now what you're currently going through in the interviews.
Great. And just as an FYI, we got about a 5-minute mark here.
Yep.
All right, I'll do my 2-minute drill. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm just here that can definitely validate, grateful. I have a long-time relationship with Di, and absolutely, I had been applying directly to positions, and the only time I've gotten interviews with a corporate recruiter are through Di's referrals or through an internal network. So it is a very challenging job market out there, as she says. And I was also trying to change industries at the same time. So following this template, she really helped with the pitch and her referrals. I got contacted by recruiters very shortly after her referrals went in, which is very encouraging and exciting. And it just also proves that Di knows not only us as candidates well, which really makes her a standout from an agency standpoint of view, but she also knows the companies really well. And with the healthcare company, I'm in final rounds of interviews, so fingers crossed there. And she also showed me an aerospace company because she knew that would be a great culture fit for me. It was very innovative and had a lot of fit that I would like to work in. And same thing, I tailored the template, got the introduction, and in final rounds of interviews with them as well. So it's been a very enlightening experience, having been on both sides of the recruitment process. And I can't recommend her agency and her process more, just because it is very successful, and I've seen it from both sides.
Thank you, Kim. Not looking for the plugs, but thank you. I just have to get a job in one of these companies. So like I said, a lot of times I refer them for free, and and nothing becomes of it, but at least I've helped somebody out. And
well, it's a great process to follow. So it's a big help for people looking for a position too.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's kind of interesting too, because it's all about timing, right? And we really have no idea what the future is going to hold. Listening to a lot of CIOs on these webinars and everything, they're talking a lot about talking more with your employees. If you have great employees, they're doing a great job working from home, find out what's working, find out what's not, see how you can accommodate, be flexible. The schedules, you got to be flexible if they have kids. Get them involved. One of the CIOs actually mentioned an application. It's a balloon application where people from all levels within the company can actually submit their ideas. What could make it better? Where do you see the company going? How can I help? The resounding results, or I should say, comments were that they need to make sure that the good people that they have get the possible training to be successful, or if you find somebody that's really great that you're hiring and you want to make sure they are successful in the company, how are you going to retrain them to be successful? The big shift is, never know if this is even going to go away or if it might come back again. So it's getting rid of desktops, all laptops, everybody using their own phones. And it was interesting. So the CIO from AEG, he said what it forced us to do was actually have better time management. We're actually better at it now, and it's worked throughout the company. And so I'd like to end with this. This is my contact information. Again, if you go to my website, there's a contact button and you can reach any of us, or like I said, you can find us on LinkedIn.